Does that mean that Thomas Partey is now the Ghanaian Rory Delat?
Yeah, exactly. And Arteta is the Spanish Tony Pulis. Tony Pulis.
So I'm dead excited for this one. Southampton versus Manchester City. We're seeing, one of the best teams in the world playing one of the worst ever Premier League teams. There's got to be goals, goals, goals in this, isn't there, Sam?
Nice. I thought you were going to say playing one of the worst teams in the world. I was going to say harsh criticism, but maybe fair after this season. I thought the same thing. Basically, with the teams, with the head-to-head record, City only won 1-0 last time out. I can't imagine that's going to be the same this time because Southampton haven't won since February. They've been whipping boys. They were potentially the worst ever Premier League team in history, as you can check out the other short on our channel, which argues for and against that. They're also good value, Southampton, because the bookies want to entice you into a bad bet. But I think this is going to be a bit of a mauling, because City have one of the rare teams in the Prem as well that have something to play for. We know that City become an absolute machine at the end of the season as well. So I think they're going to just be out there to prove a point and make a statement. I'm going to back City to score over 2.5 goals. So that's not over 2.5 goals in the game. That's Man City to score over 2.5 goals. And Haaland, 2 or more shots on target, because as always, he's having a load of shots on target, but I can just see there being so many chances.
You've kind of covered it all. Man City still have a lot to play for, and they'll have an eye on the Club World Cup and obviously the FA Cup final as well. So they'll want to maintain a bit of that momentum. They're keeping clean sheets, they're scoring goals, they're back to kind of their usual self. So they've only conceded 3 goals in their last 6 Premier League games and keeping 4 clean sheets in that time. That's pretty phenomenal for them. So I'm going to kind of add to your City to win. I'm going to say City to win to 0. Pep is going to have that backline laser focus. But I'm going to go different from your Haaland. I think that Manchester City are probably going to manage him back. We've seen it before when he's had injuries that they don't risk him too much. So they don't need to as well. They've got Marmoush in the team. So I think that he might have his minutes managed. He might not be able to have his best performances there. And my attention is actually on Kevin De Bruyne, who's been outstanding since he's come back, and also maybe making them question why they've not given him a contract. So he's had 10 shots and 11 key passes in his last 4 matches, which is a 2.2 XGI. So he's been there or thereabouts with the goals. So on top of the City to win to 0, De Bruyne shot on target, and I'm going over 2.5 goals in the game. But let's turn our attention to Bournemouth versus Aston Villa. Is that going to be a more tempered game there?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a weird one. Bournemouth really kind of inconsistent. They've only won 2 in the last 10, but they also haven't lost in the last 5. So they're kind of trying to build some momentum, but I'm not sure if they are doing. Villa have much better stats, but then they only scraped through against Fulham after they crashed out the FA Cup 3-0. So it's a really, really weird game. And I could see it being a draw, but I'd never back that outright. So perhaps a double chance. And because Villa are away and they're always much better at Villa Park, it would be Bournemouth or draw that I'd be backing for this one. I also would back both teams to score because they're both sides that create a lot of chances. They're both sides that score a lot of goals. And the AI has both teams to score at 60%, which is decent enough for me to back it. Bournemouth or draw, both teams to score. We don't know who's going to show up, so I don't quite like the overall result, but that's why I'm backing a double chance.
I'm going to go with Villa in the double chance, just because I think Villa actually have something to play for. Coming into recent games, looking at their recent form, yes, they've lost a few, and FA Cup one was a bit of a shock, but they've been quite good. And, looking at their last Premier League 7 matches, they've only conceded 4 goals. They've had 6 wins and only 1 loss in that 7-game run. And also, they've been the 3rd best side in the Premier League during that run as well. So they'd be like nearly top of the table if you just kind of had that 7-game run. But then I also want to highlight Rodgers also commits a lot of fouls, and also Semenyo. And just to remind people as well, all this fantastic stuff about fouls, data, it's all on the Numbers Game website. So do head over there because it's free, but you can sign up to other memberships as well.
Nice. You know what? You've taught me round. You know how big I am in incentives and psychology in football games. And I just saw kind of 7th and 8th Bournemouth around similar positions, but that 7-point difference is huge because Villa are well in with a shout of Champions League football. Bournemouth not really got anything to play for, I agree. So I've almost done a 180. I kind of agree with you there. The only thing is Villa are so much worse away from home, but Bournemouth have been inconsistent. Yeah. So maybe it is Villa or draw. No. Crucially as well, there's no beach in Birmingham, so Villa can't possibly be there.
This is one of your classic jokes. Sam and his
Yeah.
jokes. We call you Daddy Sam.
That's only what Gracie calls me.
But we'll move our attention from the Bournemouth Villa match before we say anything too ludicrous here. And let's go to the Newcastle versus Chelsea one. This one is harder to pick because, my gut says Newcastle.
Yeah.
They're top of the league for goals and things like that. But Chelsea can be stubborn, as we saw against Liverpool. So what do you think is the reading on this one, Sam?
I think it feels like Chelsea have been in bad form, but they've not. It's like Chelsea fans want to hate Maresca. They've been a little bit inconsistent, but they're still, they're equal on points with Newcastle, who have had an amazing season by some people's record. So it's weird. They're not in bad form at all. They're similar form to Newcastle. They've not won at St James's Park since 2021. And Newcastle are generating a lot of chances. So I feel like I'm going to be backing goals in this one. The overall result is tough to call. What I'm going to look at instead is Isak shot on target because Newcastle are generating so much. I'd imagine he'll be the one to at least get one away. So Isak 1+ shots on target and then over 2.5 goals in the game because I feel like both of these teams can get a goal at least in this one.
Yeah, and that's what the AI says as well, 66% likelihood. And I think, when the AI is saying that, it's kind of screaming out to you that you have to put it on those kind of bets. So I'm totally backing both teams to score as well. Caicedo foul, as you said there, death taxes and Caicedo foul. I do think Newcastle will win this one as well. But I do want to highlight that crazy Chelsea form. They're just kind of bubbling under the surface. Lots of wins, only 2 draws. I think in their last 15 games, they've only lost twice. One of them is that kind of throwaway game against Legia Warsaw. I do think that the home record of Newcastle will just see them through on this one. So I'd probably say it's even like a 2-1 or something like that. I don't like to bet on specific score lines, but it feels like it's going to be that sort of game. I can't see Newcastle getting too many, but I don't also see them getting a clean sheet. Let's move the attention to Spurs Crystal Palace, though. I'm going to say this, even though I'm an Arsenal fan, people are going to say I've got bias here. I'm going for a shock loss for Spurs at home.
It's not a shock anymore, mate. They're 16th.
do you believe me, though, on that one? Are you going with that?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Spurs, you'll notice, a good value. So, i.e., the bookies have them at better odds than we give them of winning. So therefore, represents good value. However, the problem with this, and this is me being completely transparent about our website, is that the AI doesn't know that they don't give a shit about the Premier League. It's one of the downsides of it. The psychology there's no way to include that. There's no coefficient to times that number by. So therefore, Spurs are good value if you fancy them, but I wouldn't be touching them with a barge pole because I think the AI is wrong on this one. Definitely back both teams to score. I think Spurs, they always seem to get a goal, but they also tend to concede. And I think after playing on a Thursday night as well, there's going to be some tired legs coming to the end of the season. They don't give a shit about the Premier League. So I'm going to back both teams to score and a Romero foul.
I think we can kind of create a Spursy algorithm, because we have to. They stand alone in terms of their ability to muck up games. Is there a way that we can introduce that to the AI, teach the AI, learn that Spurs do Spursy things?
It would have to be something like you work out how many times a team that is favourite doesn't win the game, and then you're kind of working out an upset coefficient, aren't you? And that would be the Spurs coefficient, I would say.
Spurs coefficient. That is brilliant. But in terms of this game, I'm totally with you. I back that both teams will score. Putting the balls on the table. I'm going.
Nice. They sounded heavy.
Yeah, this is Crystal Palace's game to win. I'm fully backing them, and it's the fact that not only have they been on quite a good bit of form, but also the games that they've lost recently, they should have won on XG.
Yeah.
I know we say football has been won on the pitch, but looking at it, their loss to Newcastle, draws with Arsenal and Nottingham Forest, they won all those games on XG. And I think the difference with maybe those sides than it is to Spurs is Arsenal, Newcastle and Nottingham Forest have quite good goalkeepers. They have quite solid defences that can kind of absorb those chances and they do kind of buck the XG there. It'll be a multiplier effect as well. Eze or somebody will get a goal and then Spurs will just fall apart. Their eyes will be probably on, the rest of their season, whether they make it to the Europa League final or not. And like you said, they don't care about the Premier League anymore. This one, for me, Crystal Palace to win. And like you said, both teams to score. So the final one of the weekend that we're going to talk about is Liverpool versus Arsenal. I don't know what to say on this one. Sam, you're going to have to guide me because I don't think it's very clear what will happen with this one.
I do, mate. I'm afraid. I do, and they're playing for pride at this point. Both teams, really. Arsenal specifically. I mean, they've crashed out of the Champions League.
Yeah.
That was the season that they were going to win the Champions League, and the finish in the top four for Prem and whatever. But Arsenal haven't won in 90 minutes at Anfield since 2012. They're not going to start doing this Sunday. Let me tell you that for free. So it's Liverpool or draw. I could see Arsenal maybe nicking a point, and it's McAllister foul, and that is the banker for this weekend, ladies and gentlemen. It's laid out clear as day. Arsenal are not winning that game. I'm sorry to say, Jason.
I can't really disagree with what you're saying. I just want to throw in there, is it an over 2.5? Is it less than 2.5? Like, what kind of narrative is it? Is it Arsenal totally collapse? Or do they kind of, like you said, play for pride and kind of shut out Liverpool, but they still lose?
Well, Arsenal were looking like they didn't give a shit about the Prem either. They look like, right, we're comfortable with the top four finish. It seems like it's locked in. So then they're drawing and losing games. Then they crash out of the Champions League. I think they will feel quite deflated. That's one thing. And Liverpool haven't had a midweek game, so they're on a full week's rest. Obviously, Liverpool already champions, but I think they'll want to finish in style. With this new Arsenal come Stoke kind of team, there is always a chance that they get a goal, like against any team. Set pieces, Thomas Partey's throws, there's always a chance they get a goal. I wouldn't touch under 2.5 because I feel like it's going to be there or thereabouts either way. It's like a 50-50 for me.
In the absence of Ollie, do we say less than?
Yes. Whisper it quietly, but he's not as daft as he looks, is he?
Does that mean that Thomas Partey is now the Ghanaian Rory Delap?
Yeah, exactly. And Arteta is the Spanish Tony Pulis.
That's just like the worst thing possible to compare Arteta to Tony Pulis. But listen to Sam. He's the level-headed one on this one. And just to remind everybody, do hit that subscribe button. Do interact with the video as well. Let us know in the comments if you agree, disagree, and if you've been using some of our tips as well or using the Numbers Game website. But for now, I'm going to wish you the best of luck and see you very soon.